Just in terms of quarterbacks in general coming out in this draft, what are you hearing about who's likely coming out? Let's start with that.
I think the only quarterback that scouts feel very confident will be in this class among the underclassmen is Fernando Mendoza, probably the Heisman favorite at this point, with what he did over the weekend in the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State, the number one ranked defense in all of college football. I mean, he is. We thought he was a first-round pick coming into the year, coming over from Cal, going that Curt Cignetti offense with the Hoosiers. But not only did he just cement that, but he's put himself to be a legitimate number one overall pick type of contender. Reminds me a lot of Jared Goff when he was coming out of college, where the physical traits are fine. Like the mobility, the arm strength, they're good, not great, but good. But it's really the intelligence pre and post snap, the poise, the confidence. That's what stands out the most with Fernando Mendoza. And then I think that it's a little bit of we're waiting and seeing which other underclassmen will come out after Mendoza. Dante Moore from Oregon has had a terrific year. He's 20 years old, and he could really use another year. But is this a strike while the iron's hot type of situation where if he declares, he'll be a top 5 pick? The amount of quarterback needy teams at the top of this draft far outweigh the supply. So it's a kind of a tough decision for him. NIL obviously affects decisions now. Oregon will have no problems writing that check, but at the same time, can you pass up a top 5 pick? And then Simpson from Alabama is the other underclassman we're watching closely. The first 2 months of the year looks great. Then November happened, and it was a little more rocky. But, he's a different situation. He has 13 starts. He's a one-year starter, but he turns 23 this month. And so does he feel like it's time to move on instead of going back for his 5th year at Alabama? So it could end up being a pretty light quarterback class, which I think we had a lot of optimism for what this quarterback class would look like. And it's looking like that's going to be 2027 and not 2026.
If Dante Moore is on the fence about coming out, could he be inspired to make that decision based on Oregon being name-checked in the new Pat McAfee song? Oh. Top of mind awareness now, the excitement builds, and he figures, hey, yes, I might as well do it now.
There you go. I mean, these decisions are so unique and personal that I think fans would be shocked about some of the variables that go into some of these decisions about whether they go, whether they come out. And these kids are young, and I'm not saying this is, Dante Moore's situation, but a lot of these guys just aren't getting great advice. They're kind of going based on vibes. They're going based off of, dollar figures and, maybe not what's best for them long term. But, look, Dante Moore is a really talented quarterback at Oregon, and Dan Lanning's a very persuasive guy. We know they can write the check. So, it'll be interesting to see ultimately what decision he makes.
Are any of these quarterbacks worth trading 2-3 first-round picks to jump up and get and then pay them all that money and center your franchise's future around? In your opinion.
It really depends on the team. Like, if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm desperate. Although, Shedeur, give him credit, he played well against a bad defense in Tennessee. So we'll see how Shedeur Sanders finishes out the year. But, a team like the Browns, where they have 2 first-round picks, and you could package those to go from pick 5 up to number 1 to go get Fernando Mendoza, I think that makes sense for them. Whereas maybe some other teams, it doesn't make as much sense. There's not a quarterback in this class that is on the level of Drake May when he was coming out as a prospect.
So in terms of grade. Yeah, but unless you're desperate, you're saying you'd wait till 27.
I would not give up the farm to go get a quarterback in this class unless I was desperate. And there are several desperate quarterback needy teams this year. And it's easy when you're a GM. You don't know what your job security is. It's, let's go get our guy now. That leads to some rash decisions. Sometimes it works out, but a lot of times it doesn't. This is just going to be a quarterback class. And a lot will depend on who finishes with the first pick, right? Because usually the first pick does not get traded. The first pick has gotten traded twice the last 20 years. And it's usually because the team that picks first needs a quarterback. But if the Titans or the Giants end up with that first overall pick this year, it's getting dealt. They will move back because this is also a draft where there's not a clear-cut non-quarterback that's definitely, worth it. There's no Myles Garrett. There's no that level of prospect where you stick and pick. If you have a chance to trade out of there, you're moving. And so a lot will depend on who finishes with the first pick this year.
Okay, so some of the analysis that I've seen about this draft is interesting in that two of the best – let's just start with a number. How many elite players are in this draft overall?
Gosh, that's so tough because elite is
like a surefire top 10 talent, like a rare. Like last year, what was it? It was like Travis Hunter and
Abdul Carter.
Yeah. Are there
right.
guys like that that are like generational prospects in this draft?
I would not say generational. I think there's really good prospects at the top. Arvell Reese from Ohio State is, the modern day edge linebacker. The athlete that he is at 6'5", 240 pounds, is exceptional. And then I think the interesting part or interesting storyline of this draft is going to be Caleb Downs and Jeremiah
That's
Love.
where I was going with you because a lot of people think, I don't know a lot of people, but there are people throughout the year that thought those are the two best players in college football. But Caleb Downs is a safety and Jeremiah Love is a running back, which are two positions generally not taken in the top 10.
The NFL has told us how they feel about drafting those two positions in the top 10. But you could argue these are two of the three best players in the draft. So it'll be fascinating to see how this ends up playing out. Because Caleb Downs as a safety, you'll hear when you watch Ohio State on TV, they'll bring up Ed Reed, and he's not that style of player. It's just not how he's used. He's more of a downhill guy. But he's so smart that you can do everything that you want a safety to do. You want him to play as a nickel. You want him to play in the box. You want him to play as a robber. You want him to play in the post. He can do all these different things. And he's usually the first read for a quarterback because you have to identify what Caleb Downs is doing, and then that dictates where you're going with the football. So Caleb Downs and his intelligence, and he's a good athlete, physical, one of the best tacklers in this class. And so if you have any type of need at safety, he's not a guy that you should pass on. But, like I said, the NFL has told us how they feel about drafting safeties. And then Jeremiah Love, the running back, who, if I had a Heisman ballot, he would be on my top three pretty easily. He's so explosive. Reminds me a lot of James Cook in Buffalo, where if you hits the accelerator, gets through the lane, good luck. He just erases pursuit angles. And he's also very versatile in terms of what he does in the passing game. He'll step up a pass pro. But more importantly, you can kick him out, and he'll line up in the slot. He can line up out wide, and he becomes a receiver for you. So not every team is at the point in their roster construction where it makes sense drafting a running back top 10. I'm thinking about the Raiders and, drafting Ashton Genty 5th overall.
Yeah, how did that end up affecting things? Like, why don't you think Genty has been better this year?
Well, the passing game, the offensive line, the entire offense is just it's not conducive to dropping a running back in and letting him kind of flourish. Teams they can really zero in on the running back, and it really makes it tough on him. So, I think that the Raiders just thought they were in a better place offensively with the health of their offense than in reality where they are. And so, we've already seen the offensive coordinator fired there, and there will be more changes coming. I think teams have to be honest with themselves with where they are in their roster construction about drafting a running back that high. So, we've seen it. I don't think the Falcons regret drafting Bijan Robinson 8th overall, or the Lions regretting drafting Jahmyr Gibbs 12th overall. Those are two examples of how it worked out. And Jeremiah Love, if he goes to the right situation, I think it can work out as well. And the Commanders, they need another explosive part of that offense. I'm thinking about the Vikings, and they've got some quarterback issues, but add an explosive element to that backfield that might really help things develop on that offense. So there are teams in the top 10, top 12 where it makes sense. But again, he's one of the best 3 players in this draft who probably won't go as high as he should just because he's a running back.
Patriots are going to obviously pick towards the bottom of the first round, if not at the bottom of the first round. And their roster construction is such that they can afford to just take the best player available. What positional grouping has a lot of depth that they could get at 29, 30, wherever they wind up?
Yeah, I was joking that the new Patriots motto they should have plastered across that building is just protect Drake at all costs. And whatever that means, whether that's offensive line, whether that's upgrading the talent in terms of the weapons and just making the offense more explosive, it's been awesome to watch him. And it's funny because it was 2 years ago about this time where the most hate and vitriol I've ever received on social media was at the end of Drake May's season at North Carolina. NC State, Clemson, it did not go well. And I've been hyping this guy up for 2 years about how he was going to be the next big thing. And the way the season ended, his final year at UNC, it did not look good. And the amount of people pushing back on that. And so it's just funny to look back at that now. I think the most important stat besides the score, we hear turnovers, but right there with turnovers is explosive plays. And Drake May, I think only Josh Allen has more plays of 20-plus yards in the NFL, and it's close. I think Josh Allen's at 53 and Drake May's at 51. So it's just when you have the ability to create these explosives, that just changes the equation. And so whatever I can do to helping my young quarterback, that's what I'm going to do, whether that's offensive tackle depth, depth on the interior, it could be another weapon on the outside. I think this draft could play out where that is, not only what they need and could use, but where they'll be picking in the draft makes sense, whether that's, an offensive lineman, Monroe Freeling from Georgia is the tackle I had to them in my mock draft. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern, I think would make sense. Caleb Lomu from Utah. If they wanted to go with a wide receiver, I think we're going to see 4 to 6 receivers go in the first round this year. Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M could be in that mix. Chris Bell from Louisville is a big target, 6'2", 225 pounds. He's going to run the 4.4s. Could be another explosive option on the outside, big target. So I think that with where the Patriots could go to help their young quarterback, it could be exactly in the range of where they're picking.
For the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.